Our next unit study is on the Maya, Inca, and Aztecs. The first term we need to understand, though, is Mesoamerica. Mesoamerica is the area of land in Mexico and Central America. Some of the early civilizations in the Americas developed in Mesoamerica. The Maya and the Aztec people lived in Mesoamerica. Our first group of people are the Maya. The Maya were concentrated in and around the Yucatan Peninsula. Politically, the Maya were not an empire. They were not a united group of people. The civilization was made up of mostly city-states. City-states were controlled by their own rulers. The Mayans were polytheistic. They believed in many gods. The Mayans also at times practiced human sacrifice. The Maya built towering temples and elaborate palaces. Atop these temples, priests performed religious ceremonies or human sacrifices while people below watched. Okay, the Mayas had many advances in learning. Some of the biggest ones were that they created a writing system of hieroglyphics. Hieroglyphics are a system of writing using pictures. Most of the Mayan pictures were representative of phonetic sounds. This means that pictures could be combined to find words. So for example, phonetic sounds mean, like if we were spelling the word cat, k is a phonetic sound, a is a phonetic sound, and t is a phonetic sound. You would put those three pictures together to form the word cat. The Mayans also created a numeral-based 20 system, or 20 individual digits instead of our base 10 system. This is an example of what this looked like. The shell was 0, a dot was 1, every 5 was a bar. So this is the way they got to 20. Okay? The Mayans also created the 365-day calendar. So what exactly happened to the Mayan civilization? The Maya abandoned their cities around 900 AD. Scholars or archaeologists do not know why they did this. However, more than 2 million Maya people still live in Guatemala and southern Mexico today. Our next group of people are the Aztecs. The Aztecs lived in what is now called the Valley of Mexico, located in central Mexico. Okay? They were a group of people who were looking for a capital city, which brings us to the legend of Tenochtitlan. The Aztec people wanted to find a place to build their capital city. The Aztecs' gods told them to build their capital city on the site where they saw an eagle on top of a cactus with a snake in its mouth. The Aztecs saw this sign on the swampy island of Lake Texcoco. This is where they built their capital city, Tenochtitlan. Tenochtitlan was built on an island. It was connected to the mainland by causeways. Causeways were raised roads across low and wet ground leading north, south, and west of the city. The city had a series of canals that allowed people to get to different sections of the city either by foot or by canoe. Now today, Tenochtitlan is actually Mexico City. The Aztec government. The Aztec people created an empire through conquest. Conquered people and local rulers had to pay tribute or taxes to the Aztecs. The Aztecs were a very warlike people, very fierce. The Aztecs did have an emperor, and the emperor's main job was to lead in war. Just like the Mayas, the Aztecs were polytheistic. They built massive temples and pyramids dedicated to their gods. Human sacrifices were a common practice among the Aztecs. They believed that human sacrifice gave strength to the sun each day to rise. For example, according to records, when the Great Pyramid of Tenochtitlan was dedicated to the gods, the Aztecs sacrificed 84,400 prisoners over the course of 4 days. One of the most important Aztecs that we will talk about this year is Montezuma. Montezuma, or technically Montezuma II, was the 9th emperor of the Aztecs. He was their most famous leader. He was the Aztec emperor who met Hernan Cortez. Cortez was a Spanish conquistador. A conquistador was a military leader in the Spanish conquest of the New World. When the Spanish arrived in Mesoamerica, Montezuma welcomed them. Okay? He brought them, this brought about the downfall of the Aztecs. Eventually, led by Hernan Cortez, the Spanish conquistadors conquered Tenochtitlan and defeated the Aztecs in 1521. Our next group that we're going to talk about are the Incas. Now, unlike the Mayan and the Aztecs, the Incas were located in South America. The Incas controlled an empire in the Andes Mountains region of South America. Their empire was divided into 4 regions with their capital as Cuzco. The Inca government was much more complex than the other two governments as well. The government was organized into a pyramid. At the top of the pyramid, you had the Sapa Inca. The Sapa Inca was the emperor, and he had absolute power. He claimed to be the son of the sun god. He was the religious leader, and nothing was done until the Sapa Inca approved it. Under the Sapa Inca, you have the Supreme Council, which were 4 men, then provisional governors, then officials. These are your army officers, priests, judges, and nobles. Your tax collector, and at the bottom of the pyramid were your workers. This is where the majority of Incas were a part of, or what group they were a part of. The Inca constructed structures without mortar, or without a cement kind of ability to hold things together. They were excellent craftsmen. They were able to fit stones together like puzzle pieces, so well that even a sharp knife cannot fit between the stones that they used on certain parts of the structures that they built. The Incas created miles of roads to connect their empire. This road system was called the Inca Road. It was 5,281.66 miles long, and it crossed 15 ecosystems. Branching off from the Inca Road was another 18,641.1 miles of road that included what was called the Inca Trail. This Inca Trail was a part of the road that led from Cusco, the capital, to Machu Picchu. Machu Picchu is one of the most important archaeological sites in the world. It is evidence of the Inca Empire at the height or peak of its power. It is a complex of palaces, plazas, temples, and homes. Scholars are still trying to figure out what its purpose is. It may have been built as a ceremonial site, a military stronghold, or a retreat for the ruling elite. But the Inca had no written language. Therefore, there is no record of what they used Machu Picchu for before it was abandoned. The Inca religion. Again, the Inca, just like the other civilizations, was polytheistic. Their main god was Inti, the sun god, and they considered Inti to be the highest god and omnipotent, meaning he was all-knowing. The Inca believed in reincarnation. Reincarnation is the belief that once someone dies, their soul will return to earth in another form. Ceremonial burials and occasional mummifications saw that the dead were prepared for the next world with things like food, clothing, and other items. In the Inca culture, each family was assigned to a specific job. The government officials arranged marriages. The government organized mandatory public service, building projects. This is how they got the roads completed or Machu Picchu built. The Incas had no written records. Instead, they kept a cryptic system of knotted strings known as kepu to keep records. The Inca, though, spoke Quechua. This was a language that originated in the Inca capital, Cusco, in the 10th or 11th century. As the empire grew, Quechua language spread. Today, over 2.5 million people in Peru still speak Quechua. So what happened to the Inca? Civil war eventually broke out in the Inca Empire. Therefore, the empire fell because of civil war. Smallpox, which is a disease brought over by the Spanish, but ultimately it was the Spanish conquistadors led by Francisco Pizarro that brought about the fall of the empire.